Hello and welcome back to JW's Dugout. John here. I hope you guys are having a great Tuesday evening. I really quickly want to start off this video by talking about Monday Night Football this past Monday here in Atlanta, where my Buffalo Bills came to play the Atlanta Falcons. And I actually had an opportunity to go. I was super excited heading into it. There's not many opportunities to see the Bills down here, down south, and so there was a lot of excitement leading up to it, and the Bills just did not come with their A game. It was a clunker of a performance. The Falcons, the score necessarily doesn't indicate it, but they won handedly between their running attack and the Bills' porous defense. Obviously, some injuries on the Bills side of things. Josh Allen is still really looking for a true threat when it comes to wide receiver, so the Bills are likely to address that during the trade deadline. But it was disappointing to say the least, especially what you end up shelling out to attend a Monday Night Football game. But it was still great to be around a bunch of Bills fans. There were so many Bills fans in attendance. Kind of made me feel like I was back home in New York. So not all was lost. I mean, other than the game itself. So today's video, I'm kind of considering this as a little therapy session for me because it's time to turn the focus back on something that really just never lets me down. And that's baseball cards, right? That's why we're all here. So the question that I want to pose today is, do you ever get fixated on something in your collection that kind of messes with everything else you want to do in the hobby? Like for me, I've been laser focused on finishing my Hank Aaron run. But every time I chase that down, I feel like I'm ignoring my Hall of Fame autograph collection. And then when I put my effort into the Hall of Fame autographs, I'm neglecting, sets from the 1950s or the last remaining cards in my 2001 Upper Deck Hall of Famers master set that I've been working on for years. And if I focus on those, then I'm also neglecting pre-war, which is something that I've really been wanting to fully dive into. I've dabbled, just haven't directed my full attention to it. And, pre-war's in there in the corner and then saying like, hey, you remember me? And it's hard to dedicate to every component of your collection. And I think as collectors go through different stages of this, depending on, where they're at in life. When I was a kid, I'd head to the card shop and I'd have some money that I made shoveling snow, over the course of the winter. And I'd have to decide, do I grab a couple packs at the store or do I go all in and try to hunt down Chipper Jones or Fred McGriff singles? Now, as an adult, I can technically do both. But the real question is, should I be doing both? Probably not. But there's got to be a little self-preservation in this hobby, or next thing you know you're explaining to your spouse why there's a second mortgage and 14 copies of the same Hank Aaron card. Luckily we're not there yet, thankfully, but I'm curious, does this happen to you guys? And I'm sure it does, but I want to know. Let me know in the comments. I want to hear your stories about what is making things complicated for you in the hobby right now in terms of what you want to accomplish. I'm genuinely curious because I know I'm dealing with it right now, and it's definitely first world problems for sure. But speaking of balance, I've been incredibly busy lately, between work and outside life. Work especially has just been killer. So it's been I think 4 or 5 days since my last video, but I have had a chance to hop on a couple of great card chats this week. I was on Alex Bowman 53's Card Room Live Sunday evening, and I also did an interview with Matt over at Straight Race Cards, and that video actually released yesterday morning, I believe. So that's to say, make sure you go check those out. It was great to be around other collectors and share some great stories, and then with Matt have a one-on-one discussion about my background and some of the commonalities that we share, in our collecting journey, and then also like, young fathers. So it was a great conversation. And the other thing I wanted to mention is, as far as the balance and, everything that's going on with my Hank Aaron collection, I've actually picked up 2 huge Hank Aaron cards over the course of the last couple days, including one that was on my top 10 top 10 cards to own before I die list that I made a couple weeks back in response to baseball collector Mike Moynihan's request, his video that he put out. So very, very excited about that. But that also kind of brings me to the point that I've been making and the question that I posed to you guys as far as what is complicating your collection. So other than that, before we turn around and take a look at some cards, coming up, I've got some really, I think, interesting stuff on the horizon. As we near the end of the NLCS and the ALCS, you've got some game threes coming up here. I think it's only apropos to show off some World Series autograph collections, and I'm going to do so over the course of the next couple weeks with the 1995 Atlanta Braves and the 2021 Atlanta Braves. So I'll show off some memorabilia, some autograph cards, things like that. So that'll be a video coming up, and then I will also, because we have a tip-off of the 2025-2026 NBA season coming up next week, I thought I'd switch things up like I did a couple months back when I did a collection spotlight on the Buffalo Bills, my team. I'm going to do a collection spotlight on the New York Knicks, because I don't know about you guys, vintage baseball card fans, you want to see some New York Knicks stuff. So we'll show you that. It's funny because I'm actually going to New York City next week. I'm going back home for a little bit of work, but also to attend a friend's wedding with my wife, and we are hoping to go to the second game of the season for the Knicks and Celtics at MSG. So really, really looking forward to that. And then other than that, I might even sneak in a few pickups while I'm out there as well. But that's what I've got kind of on my plate, on the queue, if you will, for upcoming content. We also have an episode of More Than It Seems that's going to come out more than likely Friday of this week. It's already written, it just needs to be recorded, and a lot of good stuff to look forward to. So I appreciate your guys' support, but for now, I think we're all here to look at some cards, so why don't we do it? Let's swing the camera around and take a look. All right, guys, so I want to start off with a new book pickup, and then we'll get into the cards. So as I typically do, usually show off the latest book that I've added to the collection, and this one I'm incredibly excited about. It's been promoted for a little bit, and you've seen kind of an uptick in media coverage of this throughout the hobby, but this is a book called 72 Stories, and it's from the baseball collection of Geddy Lee. And for those of you who are into music, you know Geddy Lee is one of the greatest bass players of all time, and also kind of the founder of Rush and the face of Rush for a number of years. Just an incredible rock and roll band. And what you might not also know, and some of you probably do, is Geddy Lee is a huge baseball fan, and and still has a wonderful collection, an amazing collection of memorabilia and signed baseballs. And so the story kind of behind this is that Geddy Lee recently auctioned off some of these items at Christie's. And so in 72 Stories, he works with a co-writer to basically, share his love of the game and the stories behind some of the favorite baseballs from his collection. So I actually just got this in the mail yesterday. It's a little bit on the pricier side. I think I picked this up for either $40 or $45, but just thumbing through it, some absolutely great photography. I started reading the introduction earlier this morning before work. Just some excellent memorabilia pictured here. You get an inside look at Geddy Lee's shrine, if you will, to baseball. I mean, look at all those autographed baseballs. You've got balls from the 3000 Hit Club, some all-star stuff, some Hank Aaron. We won't go through everything here, but I mean, he's got everything from Mo Berg to Eddie Goodell, Joe Carter in the 93 World Series, Fidel Castro, just some amazing stuff. And then, of course, he's got some classics. He has, Ty Cobb on a baseball, also on a cut, it looks like, Eddie Collins. So some great stories, I'm sure, as I read through this, but also some fantastic photos. I love items like this that really get into the heart of baseball history. You've got Lefty Grove here. Randy Johnson, who he ended up being really good friends with. Randy Johnson, as you know, does photography as a passion project, but he could have made a living off of it. He's a fantastic photographer, and he's also a huge music fan. So he's done a lot of photography for Rush at their shows. So I'm really excited to dig into this. Just definitely my kind of item too. A nice crossover between music and baseball memorabilia and collecting. So if you haven't picked this one up, I would definitely recommend it. I'll put this up here. All right, let's get to the cards. So I talked about it in the opening. My current obsession with just trying to knock off as many Hank Aaron cards as I can. I feel like I'm at the finish line. In actuality, I'm probably not at the finish line because I'm like 75% of the way through, and I've got the big boys to pick up. I've still got to go out and get the 57 tops. I still have to get the 55 tops, and of course I have to get the 54 tops, but I've got a couple really big cards coming that should be here in the next couple of weeks that I'm really looking forward to. My big pickup, I guess you would say, for this run of pickups is the 1961 Topps Hank Aaron. I've been on the market for this one for a while, and I was just trying to look for one with great registration, and I think this one fits the bill. SGC 3.5, and I always love this card. I love the dichotomy between the yellow and the green, and Hank Aaron's uniform, that classic Milwaukee Braves look, and his pose. This one, of course, went through eBay authentication. It took me close to a month to get. I've already voiced my opinion on how much I dislike the process, and I wish you could select whether or not you wanted it, but that's not what this channel's about. I'm not going to sit there and try to be a talking head and really voice my opinion. I want to share the cards, and I'm happy that I have them, but this one did take an awful long time. But just a beautiful version of the 61 Topps. Happy to add this one to the run. I also picked up two other Hank Aaron's. Got this 1970 Topps National League home run leaders with Willie McCovey and Lee May. I love these multiplayer cards. Just a great looking card in an SGC 5. So we'll add that one to the list. We also picked up the 1971 Topps Hank Aaron. This one has some issues. Little bent corner there, but I got a really good price on this, and didn't really want to spend an arm and a leg to check the 71 Topps off my list. So very happy with this copy. I think the back looks great. There's a little bit of issue here down on the left corner. Obviously, right here, you can really tell that it's banged up a little bit, but still got a 4. These 71 Topps cards are tough. We've talked about it in the past. So love this one. And like I said, I've got some key cards coming, including one off my top 10 cards to own before I die. So I was really happy to check one of those off. I think to myself, like, if I can check one of those cards off every year for the next 10 years, I'll be in good shape. It's going to take longer than 10 years because some of those are big boys. They're awfully expensive. A few Brooklyn Dodgers that I picked up. I was kind of in the Brooklyn Dodgers mood, given all of these recent chats that I've been having about baseball history, and started with the 1951 Topps Redback Gil Hodges, which I think is a beautiful card. Number 31 in a series of 52. You've got the Redback. These are just great looking cards. It says clouding first baseman of the Brooklyn Dodgers. He's the 6th player in baseball history to hit 4 homers in one game. Obviously, that has since changed since 1951, but beautiful card here. I also picked up, and I was really surprised that I didn't have this one yet, given just it's such an iconic image, I think, and that's the 1957 Topps Duke Snider in a PSA 4. I think this card's pretty well centered, but just a beautiful pose of Duke Snider in his Brooklyn Dodgers uniform. Great back of the card. The Duke of Brooklyn was the National League home run king last year. He also placed second in runs scored, one of the most respected hitters in baseball. Duke was the NL's #1 slugger in 56 and had another fine season patrolling center field. In the 56 World Series, he led the Brooks with 7 hits and a .304 batting mark. I love the way they wrote the copy back then. So really happy to pick this one up. We are going to move into the 60s for a second. And this is another one that's kind of been on the short list for a little while. Wasn't looking for a high grade or anything like that. But the 1961 Topps Billy Williams rookie. Of course, Billy Williams, I think, is one of those underrated Hall of Famers as well. Smooth swing, but I think even a smoother card. I think this is a pretty iconic card as well. Future Hall of Famer and one of the best early 60s Topps designs, I think, to go along with the Hank Aaron right there. So let me show the back of this one. Really happy to add that one. All right, so some smaller pickups. I'll run through these rather quick, but you know, I talked about in a previous video in terms of how I'm going to be showcasing my, you know, from my autographed baseballs to autographed index cards, just to have an image by their side. And so I went out and bought this 2015 Topps Heritage, looks like Topps News flashbacks of Marvin Miller, because I didn't have a Marvin Miller card in my collection, believe it or not. And I wanted it to go along with this JSA authenticated Marvin Miller signed baseball. Now, I won't get into everything about Marvin Miller, but for those of you who are not very familiar with his story and his impact on baseball, I would place this guy potentially top 5, definitely top 10, but perhaps top 5 most important figures in baseball history for what he did. I'll read the synopsis on the back. So this says Miller elected players rep, the chief negotiator for United Steelworkers. Miller sought a different challenge in 1966. On March 5th, the charismatic visionary became the first democratically elected leader of the MLB Players Association. In 68, he negotiated the game's first collective bargaining agreement. That last sentence there is very telling as to why he's so important in baseball. So if you get a chance, dig around, do some research, learn about Marvin Miller. This is a guy who had a profound impact on the history of Major League Baseball. So we will leave this here for a second if that wants to stay in place. All right, a few other small things, and we'll try to wrap up this video pretty quickly. In kind of the same vein as the Miller card, I picked up a few more Perez Steel unsigned postcards for the autographed index cards that I do have. And as I start to build on this collection, maybe I'll go back, you know, a couple months down the road and show off some of these autographs as well. I have in previous videos, but I figured we'll do it again when we have, you know, the visual component to go along with it. So we've got Billy Herman, Fred Lindstrom, and Joe Sewell. So happy to pick those up. All right, we did have one card for the Fred McGriff run, and that is this 2021, I'm sorry, 2021 Platinum Anniversary Rose Gold Mini Diamond. This is numbered out of 75, 14 of 75. Again, I always love this set from a modern perspective. Great shimmer. There's so many parallels in this, but I love the vintage inspiration, obviously. This one really caught my eye and got a really good deal on it. These will occasionally pop up on eBay. I still have a number of cards to go to complete the run, but anytime I can pick up a Fred McGriff, it's a good day. Sticking with one other modern card, and then we'll switch sports for just a second before we wrap up the video. I did pick up this 2025 Bowman Chrome Drake Baldwin autograph. And my purpose behind this was, of course, I'm a Braves fan, and I do strongly believe that Drake Baldwin is going to win the National League Rookie of the Year. He absolutely should. But I was actually upgrading. I have a couple other Baldwin autos, but I wanted to get one with the rookie logo on it. And this one really caught my eye. I got it at a pretty good price. His cards are only increasing, and you know, by the time November rolls around and they announce Rookie of the Years, this card will only increase in value as well. So wanted to get it while the getting was good for sure. So happy to pick that one up. And then the last thing that we have on the list here, and there's a little bit of a story here. I purchased, I guess it was about 4 or 5 days ago that it came in the mail, a 1972-73 Walt Frazier in a PSA 6, or no, I'm sorry, an SGC 6. And I opened it. I remember opening it. I remember taking it down to my basement in my office, my card room here, and thought I placed it on the desk next to me. And I have looked absolutely everywhere for the last 3 or 4 days trying to find this card, and it is nowhere to be found. And that really bums me out. It wasn't a high dollar card by any means. I think I ended up buying it on eBay for $20, $25. But I am not one to lose things, and it is driving me absolutely wild. So I'm really hoping that that appears at some point over the course of the next couple days, because it is driving me a little batty. But anyways, to stick with the Knicks theme, I did pick up one thing that I've wanted to pick up for a very long time, and that is a Red Holzman signed index card. Best wishes, Red Holzman. Of course, you will remember him as the kind of the architect, the coach behind the New York Knicks title teams of the 70s. And he was the man behind it all. Just an absolute genius when it comes to basketball strategy, and was really happy to pick up his autograph to kind of round out, I would say, some of the vintage items that I've been picking up, Knicks related. Obviously, I have a plethora of Knicks autographs. Did not have red. I would like to really go back and also get some of the past Knicks coaches, whether it's Pat Riley or Van Gundy or any of those guys that I don't currently have in my collection. So was really happy to add this one. This will be part of the Knicks showcase that I spoke on earlier. And again, fingers crossed, hopefully I can find that Walt Frazier card, because it is driving me crazy. But that's really it for the pickups for today, guys. I really appreciate you guys stopping by the dugout. I appreciate all the support, all the comments that you guys give me for each video. It doesn't go unnoticed. And like I said, if you get an opportunity, go back and watch Card Room Live from Sunday on Bowman 53, Alex's channel, and then also Matt Straight Race Cards and our conversation. I think it was a very enlightening conversation, and who knows, if you guys are really interested, I'm not a huge fan of talking about myself, but if you're interested to learn a little bit more about my backstory, go for it. That's what it's there for. All right, guys, you have a good night, and we'll catch you next time.